This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome back to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is our final episode, sadly, for this series of the podcast with Fatima. And Fatima, super consumer, super fan, connoisseur of specialty coffee. We are going to be exploring what kind of progress you would like to see in the specialty coffee industry with regards to the way that we approach consumers. Now, we touched on it in the last episode, but when you were talking about, you were using the idea of inflation or the example of inflation and how that might be a real problem for baristas and for cafe owners that don't have relationships with their consumers. Now, that's something that I think is going to be a problem, whether it's specialty coffee or not specialty coffee.
Sure.
But as let's say the next decade progresses and our industry needs to keep consumers like you engaged and wanting to come back to our cafes and our roasteries, what is it what is the kind of progress that you would like to see made by our industry to keep customers like you satisfied?
As we mentioned, Lee, in the previous episode, that there is a big gap between the specialty coffee industry and the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So the industry is asking, what should the consumer do? But what is the role of the industry to the consumer? What is the plan that the industry is taking, or what is the next step the industry is taking toward the consumers? Now, they said the consumers should understand that there is inflation and the rise of prices and everything. So me as a consumer, I have to pay more for that, right? But what is the role of the industry to make me believe and trust that there is something in order to support the industry, support the supply chain as a consumer? What is the industry role in that? This is my role, and I will pay if you convince me that I need to support the supply chain. But what is your role as a specialty industry toward the consumers, and how you're going to convince them that their cup of coffee prices is going up? Because they may shift to any other beverages easily if they're not really in love with coffee. But I really love coffee, and I'm aware that there is something is changing, and it started years ago, and we will face these changes right now and next years. So I am one from the 2% from the majority. What about the 98% from the consumers groups that they really don't know about it? And I don't think the majority really cares about it, unless the industry is going to make an effort, attract them, make them more aware, connect this bond between the industry and the consumers, and get the consumer in their sides. Because if any coffee shop now raise their prices, no one is going to this coffee shop. They will stop going to this coffee shop.
Is that because in Dubai, in the UAE, because there has been a significant boom in specialty coffee in the Middle East over the past few years, right?
Yeah, and maybe today there is a soft opening for a certain coffee shop. So every day we have an announcement of a soft opening of new coffee shop. We have new coffee shops almost every day, right?
But there's a lot of them that close soon after, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what ideally, as a coffee consultant, I would love to see is that cafes that open have a better chance at staying open for good rather than most likely to close. And so the best way that we can do that is to bring customers like you the kind of satisfaction that you're looking for. So you'll want to frequent cafes more. You'll want to support roasted coffee brands more. And so what it sounds like you're saying is that the specialty coffee industry in the UAE needs to make a greater effort, or what you would like to see is them make a greater effort in communicating their purpose to their consumers and what the objectives are behind what they're doing. And if I've got it right, it sounds like what you're saying is that you would like to see the messaging to consumers be more intentional around specialty coffee so that they can see a clear difference between what they're paying for in specialty coffee versus why they shouldn't go to commercial coffee shops. In essence, as a consumer, you want to make sure that you are comfortable parting with your money because the specialty coffee shop has gone to the effort of informing you and educating you and being transparent with you. Is that kind of correct?
Yes. The thing is that what I wish to see in the community, not only in the UAE, is in the whole specialty community, that more engagement between the community and the consumers. Sometimes you will have the community is all about the roasters and baristas and the producers, and they have really great connection. But when it comes to the consumer is really out of the picture when it comes to the engagement. When it comes to the gathering, when it comes to the events and workshops and lots of things, that if the industry is going to use these kind of events or workshops and track the consumers, believe me, the consumers, instead of 98%, they're not aware about the specialty coffee and what is going on in the specialty coffee industry or in coffee. They will be attracted and they will be in their side and they will support the industry. The specialty coffee industry, definitely they will support the specialty coffee industry. But now the community or the consumers is really away from the gatherings and the groups that you have. The community is all about the professional people.
Right.
And
so you want to be invited in, essentially. Essentially what you're saying, if I'm not getting this wrong, if I'm getting it right, what it sounds like you're saying is you would like to look behind the curtain and be invited to the cuppings, and you would like to learn about the coffees. So let me see if this suggestion would work for a consumer like you. If your local cafe sent you an email and said, hey, we've got a producer event happening this Thursday, one of the coffees that we've got on bar, we have a producer from Ethiopia, the producer that created this coffee. We have them here, and we're having a private kind of, we've invited select customers to come and meet with that producer. Would that appeal to you?
Definitely. This is the same occasion that we had maybe at the beginning of this month. There is a roastery. It's one of my favorite roasteries, and they're called Archers. I really love their coffee. And what the amazing step that they took right now is that they started hosting this producer event. They call it the Meet the Producer or producer event, where they have a certain coffee from this producer, and sometimes they have the producer at their place, and they have it free for all of the public. They put it in an application and they tell the people that we're hosting a cupping session for this coffee, and you can meet the producer, drink coffee, cup coffee, and you have free bags of coffee as well. So this, exactly, from the same coffee that you're cupping, and some of the coffees are really expensive, honestly. So they're sending these samples for the people who are in the events, free samples, in order to explore and try their coffee and to have this engagement and bonding with the producer or the roaster or the barista behind the bar. And the nice thing that they're doing is that they call everyone. It's open to everyone. Whoever shows the advertisement can attend the cupping session. There is no limitation for numbers. There is no limitation of anything. You just jump to this cupping session, talk to the producer, talk to the roaster, talk to the barista behind the bar, have this coffee conversation. And from there, the customer will have this relationship, the bonding relationship with this roaster or with this coffee shop. It doesn't matter. But the thing is that this will help for a better engagement. Now, if this roaster the cost, I'm willing to pay because I know what is going on. Right. And consumers who are visiting these events started to understand exactly what is going on, what the producer is doing in the farm, because they hosted one of the producers from Ethiopia, and he started talking about what he's doing in his farm. And people, they were really curious to know exactly what's going on there. And there were some of the people, they don't know exactly that the coffee is a cherry from a tree, so they don't know. So these engagements and these events will make the consumers will have a better understanding, and at the same time, the industry will know exactly who are their consumers, what is the target of the industry, what is the awareness level that the industry is targeting to lift their consumers to exactly, in order to be at the same line, because we are in the same supply chain. I am a customer that is at the end of the supply chain. I'm participating in this. So being aware is really an amazing thing, because you're going to support all of the people that you are linked with in the supply chain. So
wow,
this is really something that it needs to be taken care in the industry, as well as the education of the people behind the bars. People behind the bars that are really playing a big role on that, because they are really in direct contact with the customer. So I may not meet the roaster, but I will meet the barista or the brewer behind the bar.
Right.
So from this point, or from this stage, or from this phase, the people behind the bars, the education of the people behind the bars is really important in order to have this engagement. Because I've never had a conversation with the coffee shop owner. Rarely, you will never find the owner behind the bar, but you'll have these guys behind the bar who should be really educated and know exactly what they're doing, what they're brewing, and if they will meet Fatma one day, they should answer the questions.
I'm scared for them. But I'm also like, honestly, you would be my dream customer. And I think the fact that you would be able to come in. Yeah, because the thing is, like, as a barista, back in the days when I was a barista, you're always looking for people who love coffee to be able to say to you what they really think of your coffee. Like our job is to serve people. Our job is to be the final custodian of this complex agricultural product that has been manipulated into its next phase by many, many hands. Yeah. And as the barista, it's my privilege to be the final hands that convert that into a beverage that will only be consumed. Every sip that you take is a representation of everybody that came before me as well as me, but you are the only person that will ever get to experience that sip.
True.
You will never be able to share that sip of that coffee with anybody else. And therefore, you are the only person that can tell me what that experience was like for you. And
Often
so
we're going to pay for it or not.
whether you're going to pay
Right.
for it or not, right? Like at the end of the day, my job is to set the stage for you to have an experience that is memorable. And for
True.
me, having had a corporate job before I became a barista, I couldn't believe that this was a job that I was like getting paid for. I really didn't believe. I felt guilty taking a paycheck at the end of every week because this was such it was such a beautiful experience for me.
True.
And so the fact that I got to be like this person that offered people an experience that set them up for the rest of their day felt like a real privilege for me. I was the person who gave them the one thing in their day that was not going to bitch back at them.
Yeah.
And they loved me for it. And so it was this mutual kind of exchange of like love, right? And so whenever I would change espresso, like whenever I'd go to a new cafe as a barista, my customers would follow me. And so
Definitely.
when a customer like you comes in and says, hey, listen, what can you tell me about this coffee? And what can you tell me about the way that you're brewing it and the water temperature? I'm like, everything that I've trained for is like going next level with this customer. Sure, I'm happy to, a customer comes in and says, I want a cappuccino with 2 sugars, and they want to have a conversation about the rest of their day. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
But then every now and then a customer like you comes in and says, can you tell me everything you know about this coffee? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's talk about the processing method and let's talk about who the producer is and let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? Like
that could take hours.
It really could, but it's a whole other experience. And you're giving me information because look, here's a big question our industry is struggling with. And that is, how much information should we be giving the customer? Because we want to try and help customers understand why we need to put prices up. We want to help customers understand the plight of the producer. We want to help customers understand why this is actually at threat as a commodity because of climate change and because of all of these kinds of things. We also want to understand, we want them to understand that we don't know what you want to know.
Exactly.
So when a customer comes in and says, I want a cappuccino with 2 sugars, the signal I get from that is, don't talk to me. Right? Well, really, like they've got their headphones on and they come in, they're like, you say, hi, how you doing? And their response is cappuccino with 2 sugars. No hello, not good thanks, how are you? Nothing. The response is cappuccino, 2 sugars. And then they put their headphones back on, they give you their credit card, they pay for it, and then they go off and wait for you to call their name 15 times before they actually pick up their coffee, right?
Yeah.
So on that perspective, I need to know how I can help this person understand like that our industry and our supply chain is really stressed right now. So how do I get access to that customer? With somebody like you, you're coming to me and you are making it very easy for me to turn around and say, hey, listen, like I got this really great coffee. It's just come in. It's a little more expensive than the other ones, but I just thought I'd offer it to you. You know why I can do that, Fatima? Because you've engaged with me on conversations about your passion for coffee. And so it's made it less ambiguous about what you're open to.
Yeah,
but with someone who comes in and orders a cappuccino with 2 sugars every day and pays no attention to me, it's really difficult for me to figure out how I can improve their experience with this coffee or how I can help prepare them for a price hike that's coming in about a month.
Sure.
And I often wonder about this, like if I was a barista today in the economics environment that things were, I would really enjoy approaching how to solve this problem. like as a barista rather than as a consultant, because I feel like the consumer is shifting. I feel like, especially as you were saying, after the pandemic, consumer behavior has changed. So people are brewing more at home. What role do I have to play in that as a barista? Which is all very fascinating.
And it is really challenging. It's not easy, because it will take time. But I believe that there is a big opportunity for the industry is to take a step forward in the engagement part, because as I said, the consumer behavior has been changed dramatically maybe after the pandemic. But shifting their awareness will take time. Make them have this connection and engagement with the supply chain will take time. But that depends when is the next step will be taken by the industry, the specialty coffee industry.
Well, I hope I get to cup coffee with you when I'm in the Middle East later this year. And I hope that we get to have a coffee together at some point when I'm there. That will be fantastic.
You're more than welcome.
This has been an absolute delight and joy. Thank you for everything that you shared with us. I think it's just such valuable information for us as an industry to hear from the perspective of someone who is a super fan of specialty coffee, but not in the industry. So, two things. First of all, how can people follow your journey with specialty coffee? On your Instagram?
Yeah, they can join my adventures in the Instagram.
We'll have the link in the show notes.
In the notes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So come and drink with me coffee here in UAE, and then I'll just take you to explore with me the places with my coffee bag. And everybody is welcome, guys. You're really welcome here.
Inshallah.
And let's have this discussion here in the UAE with our coffee.
Inshallah. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, will you sign off the episode for today?
Peace and peanut butter.
Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.